Good morning. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Although we are sort of halfway through the month, this is the first class that I've done of 2024. So Happy New Year to you all. Hope you're all okay. Hope you all had a lovely Christmas. It is absolutely freezing today, so I'm quite glad that I'm doing something with wool. We're not knitting, definitely not knitting a jumper. I am terrible at knitting. I'm terrible at sewing. I'm terrible at embroidery. And actually, that's a really good segue into what we're doing today, because the reason I really love this, these wall hangings that we're going to make is because they're really, really easy. And it's a really nice way of using yarn and cotton and wool, and you don't have to be very good at it. And I'm terrible. I'm terrible at any kind of knitting or anything like that. So this is a really nice way to make me feel like I can do something with string, basically. So today we're going to make some really easy wall hangings. It feels apt, as I said, because it's so cold to be using wool and things like that, but they're just really, really simple, easy to make, super cheap. You can use scrap materials. So I would suggest that if you're somebody that doesn't like using wool, like me, or yarn, is that you ask someone who is an avid knitter if you can just have all of their scraps, and then you don't have to spend any money at all, really. If you use other people's scraps of wool, then not only are you recycling, but you don't have to really do much or make much effort at all. So that's why I wanted to do one like super easy today. It really eases into the year, nothing too difficult. Anyone can have a go. If we have time, I'll maybe just start us on something a bit more difficult, which is one of these sort of weaved ones, which again, I say difficult, they're not really. They're just a bit more tricky for me because, again, I'm not very good with this sort of thing. So this is just a little bit trickier. So we'll see how we get on, but the other ones are dead easy. So, right, what do we need today? There's a few things that you do need. So the first thing that you need are tapestry wheels. Now, again, if you're not a embroiderer or a knitter, then see if you can get some of these off someone you know. Now, the thing with tapestry wheels is that usually you use them and then you reuse them. So you would put your fabric in here and then you take it out and you get to keep the wheel forever. But for this, you're going to use it as the wall hanging. So if you are taking these from other people, you must let them know that they're not getting them back. You're not borrowing them, you're keeping them forever. But they are fairly affordable. And the great thing about tapestry wheels, although I can't actually show you in this because apparently I've just got the outside, but you get two parts to it. So with tapestry wheels, you get an outside part and an inside part, which actually means you're getting 2 for 1 because you don't need both wheels to do what we're doing. So if you go and buy one, and they are relatively cheap if you go to the right places, they sell them in any craft place. What you can probably get them in supermarkets, to be fair, but most craft shops will do them, and I think they even probably do them in like pound shops, and they're super duper cheap. You can get expensive ones and you can get plastic ones, but the wood ones are really cheap. You can get them about this size for maybe £2 or £3, and you're getting 2 wheels, so you can make 2 hangings. So I've got myself a few random ones here. You can get all sorts of different sizes. You can get whatever size you want. Doesn't really matter, whatever you want to do. So that's the main thing that you need, is the wooden wheels. So as I've said, you can get them from most craft shops, but you could also take them from people who might not want them anymore. That would be nice. And essentially, we're just going to wrap them in wool and add some lovely things to them, and then hang them on the wall, and then they're going to look super effective and lovely. So I've got a few different options here, and I'm going to tell you the different ways we can do them. And as usual, I'm going to get absolutely covered in all of my stuff and surrounded. So please bear with me if I end up getting covered in string, because this always happens. I just get too much stuff out. I did have a massive tidy up of, you don't see this at all because we've got a lovely wallpaper behind me, but this is my sort of like office craft space, and it's usually so messy. It's unbearable, but I tidied it. It was one of my New Year's resolutions, so I spent 5 hours tidying this room, and now it's gorgeous. So hopefully I won't get too bombarded with my own products. So we're going to wrap a few wheels, and there's a few different ways we can do it. So I'm going to teach you how to make pom-poms. So it could be just as simple as this one, which is just a wrapped wooden wheel with a few pom-poms added to it, which looks super nice. And I'll show you how you can make pom-poms with different colours. Really easy, much easier than it looks. So that's one option. And then the other option is that because it's the new year and it's cold and it's wintry, and I feel like everyone's making New Year's resolutions and trying to be really motivated, but actually January should be about staying at home and being cozy and eating nice warm food and just staying indoors, really. So I thought we'll go a bit sort of natural, and we'll put some twigs in there. So again, a really easy, effective way of decorating something for free. So I've added some twigs to these ones. So I'll show you how to do those. So we've got a smaller one here where we've used just sort of nice natural colours, and we've gone for that sort of asymmetric look, and you're going with the sort of the direction of the twig, which is quite nice. Or we could go really sort of crazy and use really nice bright colours. I've got some neons there. So I'll show you how to do those two. I'm already getting wool stuck to things. So I'll place those over there. And you will see here, just to prove my point of how cheap this can be, I stole, well, I didn't steal it. I got this twig from a piece of grass when I walked the dog this morning. So it's as simple as that. I did feel a bit weird picking up twigs off the ground and putting them in my pocket, but there we go. It's as simple as like getting a twig off the floor. So that's what we're going to use. So the first things first is that we're going to wrap our wheel, which is really, really easy. It's super self-explanatory. So I don't feel like I need to do the whole thing. But I think at this point, it might be wise to sort of consider what sort of colour scheme you're going for. You could decide if it's for somebody, then you might consider like what colours they like. You want like, I always go in with a million colours. I can't stop myself. But if you're doing it with, so if, for example, we do this one first, we've got the colour that goes around the outside, we've got a pom-pom, and then we've got 2 sets of tassels. So essentially we've got 4 colours there. Now we can go with more colours, and we probably will do, but you just might at this point consider what colour you want the wheel to be and how that might affect the other colours that you might want to choose. That's my favourite bit, actually, is choosing the colours. So I think that's why I've pointed that out at this point. You could just go with it and do whatever you fancy. And if you're doing this with children, because this is totally accessible to kids, they can have a go as well, then you could just let them choose for you, in which case it's probably going to be all the colours, like me. So we're going to wrap around here. Now, the other thing as well is if you don't have tons and tons of wool or yarn, that you might consider using a thicker wool to go round, because it won't use as much. So I think I will do that just to prove my own point. So I think I'll go with this lovely dark red. Now hopefully the colours will pop on here. It's quite bright outside, the light's coming in. So this is a dark red, so we're going to start with that. And it's really simple. We're literally going to tie a knot at the top. Now, if you think about it, don't worry if you don't, and if you forget, you could tie a knot and leave. I just remembered as I was doing it, is to give yourself a bit of string here, because then this will be useful to turn into the bit that we hang it with, if that makes sense. But don't worry if you don't do that. You might choose to use a different coloured string for that. And now we're simply going to wrap it. Now, the only reason that this bit's difficult is because you're having to pull the wool through the hoop a million times. So there's a few different things you can do. You can persevere with your massive ball of wool if you so wish, or you can unravel some and then do it section by section. For the purposes of this, because I don't want to spend too much time showing you this, I'm just going to persevere with putting the wool round. Now, I quite like this bit because you have to be quite precise. You can be as tight as you like. In fact, it's better, the tighter the better, because, sorry, I'm going to keep hitting my camera, aren't I? The tighter the better, because then it's not going to unravel. Again, covering myself with wool. And hopefully you can see, now I'm sort of holding on, as I wrap it round, I'm holding on with my thumb just to keep it in place. Now, you probably get quicker at this as you go. This is sort of like, if this is your first go, sorry, wobble. I'm going to have to be very careful with that, aren't I? And you will get quicker. And again, if you do decide to unravel some, you'll be much quicker because you're not pushing a whole ball full of wool through the circle every single time. But I think just to show you guys, this is easier to do. Now, the other thing that you could do, which I haven't got an example of, but it's super easy, is you could do, well, you could do more than one colour for starters. You don't have to just do one colour all the way around. I'm just going to unravel this slightly so I can show you a bit more. Yeah, you don't have to use one colour. You could do it in sections. So you could be very sort of, you know, just go with how you're feeling and just do different sections. You could do rainbows. So you could go, you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, all the way around. The other thing that you can do is, oh goodness, what's happened here? Already got myself tangled. The other thing that you could do is you could zigzag the wool. So you could choose a different colour. Hang on a sec. Let's just unravel myself. What's going on? Goodness me. The other thing that you could do is when you've gone, you say you go all the way around with one colour, you could then go along with another colour and do a zigzag. And in fact, I will show you that very quickly now, because why not? And as I've got myself in a tangle, you don't need to see any more of this. So you're just wrapping around and you're being as tight as you can. The tighter you are, the better, because if it's not tight, then this could unravel over time or get loose. And then essentially, as soon as you get back round, you're just knotting it to this end here. Super easy. So I'm going to move that to one side and I'm going to show you this real quick. So I've got two. So I've got this pink one here ready to go. So you can see here where I've just knotted it up, and you could cut those extra bits off if you want. And then I've added an extra bit here, which will be how I hang it. But what you could do at this point with the zigzag, so I don't have an example, so I'll show you, is you would choose like a contrasting colour, maybe a thinner yarn if you have access to different thicknesses and different thinnesses. So what have I got here? Maybe this yellow would work, this lovely mustard yellow, because they're nice and contrasting. And then what you would do is, now you'd probably have to do this in sections, and actually you don't have to do the whole thing if you don't want to. Now we're going to see how good my skills are, because usually I would do this and then like clamp the wheel in between my knees to sort of hold it together, but I can't do that on this camera. So we're going to see how I can do it whilst holding it up on a desk. It might not work. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold the wool, and a bit like when you're wrapping ribbon around a present, you sort of want it to be equal either side, if that makes sense. Yeah, and that's hanging around there. And then essentially, now the reason I remember this is because I used to get hair braids in the 90s, and they used to do this when I went on holiday, and they used to do hair braids in your hair. They'd always do a zigzag bit, and now I've realised how they do it. It's very exciting. So let's see if I can show you nicely on the camera without it falling over. So you're literally going to cross it over like that. And then you're going to do the same at the back, but you don't need to be as careful at the back. So all you need to do is get the right to the left and the left to the right. And then they come out either side again. And then you do the same thing. So you're literally crossing it over, as simple as that. Crossing over, like so. And then you're getting this sort of zigzag pattern. So then we're going to go underneath again. So I'm going to go left to right, and then right to left, and then they're going to pop out either side, and you sort of bring them down slightly, so you're working your way down. The other thing that you could do, so here I'm just thinking on my feet at this point, is that you could add beads if you wanted. So the reason I just thought that then is because I did a workshop for kids in the summer where we made magic wands. And essentially we were doing this, but on twigs. So we were wrapping twigs with wool, different colours, and adding feathers and stuff. And when you do this sort of zigzag effect here, you can also, as you're going, you could string some beads onto this bit so that the beads are then showing on the top of the wheel. Now, I'm not going to do that today because it's a little bit extra. We don't need it, but that's an option. If you want some extra bits to do, is you can add beads to them. So there you see, I've gone over and over, back and back, left to right, and then you get this lovely zigzag effect. I'm trying to do it. There we go. We've focused now. I think that looks really nice. So you could do that all the way around if you so wished, just to add an extra bit of texture and pattern to your wheel. I'm not going to go all the way around because we'd be here forever. So I'm going to stop there. And in fact, I am just going to take this off so that I can use this wheel for the rest of the session. But that's how you would do your zigzag. It's quite nice. And I've not done too much, so it shouldn't take me too long to take this off. So the next thing that we're going to do, I think, is we shall attach our twig. I think that's the next thing. If we do twigs, then tassels, then pom-poms, and then if we have time, I can show you a little bit of weaving. And if you like the weaving and you would like that as a whole session in itself, then that's a possibility. So you can let me know if you think that that's interesting enough to you. So we've wrapped our wheel. We've added detail with zigzags or beads or whatever, if you so wish. And now we've got our twig that we've picked up on our dog walk. And if you don't have a dog to walk, then you might look a little bit weirder when you're picking your twigs up from the grass. But it doesn't matter. It's all in the name of crafting, which is fine. So then what you're going to do is you're going to choose your twig. Now, you can go and get as many twigs as you like, and then you can choose which twigs you want for which wheels. But what I quite like about the twigs, I think that's why I started doing these, is because it just adds a bit of asymmetry to something that's quite symmetrical. So often with things where you're using tapestry or embroidery wheels and weaving, it's all very symmetrical. And I think these look better when they're not symmetrical, because then you can just add more to them and there's more texture to it, more depth, and they're just going to look really nice when they're hung up. Same with macrame, I guess. Like macrame can often be quite symmetrical, so it's just adding a bit of extra. So that's why I like these twigs, because it's very rare that you get a completely straight twig. If you like symmetry, then go look for straight twigs. That's fine. That's okay. This will still work. But I like the fact that, so for this one, for example, you can decide if you want the twigs to go that way or you want it to go downwards. I think personally, I would always go with the bits pointing upwards to go that way, because then you can hang things off them, which is quite fun. So then we can decide if we want that bit to go that side or if we want that bit to go that side. Doesn't really matter. Totally up to you. And I think it just gives it that kind of witchy vibe, which I quite like. So let's go with the original. Let's go with the twig pointing up to the right. I quite like that. So all you're going to do is just place that there, and we've just got to knot it in place. And the other thing I really like about this is you don't have to make it look neat. I quite like the fact that when you wrap it up, it's going to look sort of handmade. It's obviously handmade. It doesn't need to be neat. It can be wrapped and tangled, and that adds to the effect, I think. So we've got our pink wheel. So now I need to decide what colour I'm going to sort of wrap this up with. I do quite like this mustard that I did the crisscrossing with, so I might go with that actually. If you don't want it to look as neat as I do, quite like messy things, then you might want to consider using the same colour that you wrapped the wheel with to tie your twig to. So I'm going to just cut a sort of, I don't know, a length. What would you say that is? 1/2 metre, something like that. I'm not very good with measurements, I'm just guessing. But just enough to be able to wrap it around a few times. If you want to keep it attached to the ball of wool, just in case you can, or if you've got loads of surplus pieces, then don't worry too much. I've got a bag of scrap wool, so I'm just all over the place. And then literally, it doesn't really matter how you do it, but what I would tend to do to start with is to put it underneath your wheel and your twig at a diagonal, and then you're going to sort of wrap it over like that, and this is what will happen. So this will start to go, so you just got to keep holding it in place until it's secure enough. So I might hold it down, that seems to work, and then you'll see that I'm just sort of wrapping it, if I can catch that bit of string there, in any direction. So you're going to go diagonal, you're going to go round, all the different ways, and the more you do it and the more different directions you do it in, the more secure it will be. So you'll see, like, I've gone diagonal, diagonal. I'll go round that way, round that way, round that way, just as many times as you want. You can be as I said, you can be as messy as you want. You can have all those lines where you've wrapped it on show, or you could be quite neat with it and make them all very straight, just so long as that twig feels nice. So you see now it's not like going upwards because it's secure enough to hold into place. And again, if you wanted to add a bit of extra at this point, you could add more beads to it if you wanted to. So I'm going to go around there a few times. Kind of looks like something you found in the woods, you know, that sort of thing. I think that's what I'm going for, that kind of aesthetic. And then once you've wrapped it around a good few times, you're going to turn it over. So you'll notice there I flipped it over, so the twig is now sitting at the back of the wheel, and I'm going to tie it off at the back, just because, you know, it doesn't really matter where you tie it off, but you might not want to see the end of the knot at the front. And I'm going to knot that a few times. Now, we're not doing any fancy knotting today at all. I don't know anything about knots. So any time I say knot something, just standard knot. And I'll probably do 3 knots just for look, you know. And then you'd cut that at the end there. And bash the camera again, honestly. So you've got that one in place. And now we'll do the other side. Simple as that. And I really, you know, once we've got that twig in and once we've done some tassels, that's all you need to do. You don't really need to do anything else if you don't want to, which is why it's so easy. And they look so good on the wall. I've got one up in our bedroom and it looks great. So again, we're going to go diagonal. I'm going to hold it down a little bit just until it's all wrapped up. Once it's wrapped up a few times, you don't really need to hold it down. Going every direction, and I quite like the zigzaggy direction. And also this is great. I really love this. So this is like a little knot on the twig, and you can kind of wrap the wool around that, and it's kind of makes it more obvious, you know. I like that. And that's going to go over, and then I'll do this side a few times. Maybe go that way and that way. There we go. Easy peasy. And then we flip it over, get our 2 ends of our string and do a nice tight knot. Lovely. And then 3 knots for look. And then we chop those ends off. Now you could leave them if you wanted, if you like all the extra bits of string. But I'm going to cut those bits off there. Okay, so now our twig is in place. That's not going anywhere. That's nice and strong. So now we can add some tassels. So tassels are really, really easy. And so at that point, once you've added the tassels, you could just go away and do that and they would look beautiful. But I will do pom-poms as well. Obviously, we've got to add pom-poms. So tassels, I think what we'll do is we'll add some tassels to the twig because the twig's there, we might as well. And then we'll add some tassels to the bottom. And we'll do 2 different colours. You can do as many different colours as you want, really. You can do whatever you like. So what have we got? We've got our pink, we've got our mustard. I'm thinking we need a green, you know. So I have got this lovely, like, thick one. So I might do some tassels with that. I quite like, if you have a surplus of scrap wool, it's quite nice to have different thicknesses. Again, it adds to the texture of it. It's that kind of natural aesthetic, which I quite like. So I think we'll go with this green one for the tassels. So there's a few different ways you can do this. So you can either just add them and not worry too much about the length of them. But the other thing that you can do is choose to have a direction of length. So for example, you could have them start here and the ends of each tassel goes to a point or a diagonal. You can do it by making the size of each tassel different, or you could just chop them at the end. Entirely up to you, but either way, it's very, very simple. So what I'm going to start by doing is just cutting a small length, and you literally fold it in half like this, and I'm going to start at the bottom here. Now, the only thing you can decide if you want it to go over the top or over the bottom. It will change how it looks, but really doesn't matter. It's still a nice easy tassel. So I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go underneath. Am I going to go under? Yeah, I'm going to go underneath. So you bring that loop underneath, and then these two at the bottom are going to go through that loop, and then you're going to pull it nice and tight. And it's as simple as that. So actually, I'm going to show you the other way around so you can see the difference. So the difference in the way it looks as to where the loop goes is with this one, you see the two bits of wool, and that was with the loop going underneath. So let's take that out again. So if you go wrong, you just pull it out. You've not ruined it. And then if you go over the top, so that again, folded in half, loop over the top, pull the string through. So we've got the loop there. There it is. And then we're going to pull these two through and then pull tight. So the difference is, if you have it over the top, you can see where it's been pulled through. And I think I quite like that. You will see it more obviously on this one because it's not like furry wool. So with this one, can you see these knots here? Well, they look like knots, but that's the bit where you've pulled it through. So that's when you have the loop on top rather than underneath, because underneath it would look like that. So it just depends which way you want to do it. I think I'll do it like this, quite like that way. So that way it was on top. Now, the great thing about this is because you've not actually knotted it, you can pull it out anytime. You can change it, you can tighten it, you can move it, doesn't really matter. And then, so that's your first tassel, that's it, done, easy. So what you can do is you can prepare. And so the way you would prepare is you would measure. So let's say we go with that length there. And then what you would do, no, the camera's not really picking it up, but you could, if I show you like this. So you've got two bits of string and then you're cutting them at exactly the same length. So you know that every single tassel is the same length. So if we do it like that to begin with, and you can see what I mean, I might do, so that's 3. How many do you think we'll need? I'm thinking maybe like 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. 6. Maybe 8 is enough actually. Let's do 8 and see where we go, because it's quite thick wool. You can do this one at a time if you want to check, but this is this is the quickest way of doing it. Right, so I've got 8 of those, and then what did we say? We said loop on top, didn't we? So we go loop on top, and then we go, I'm trying to do this in a way that looks nice for you to see, but at the same time it's making my hands go all over the place. Right, there we go. So there we've got your 2 there, and what you could do is you could do one either side each time. So I'm going to do this super quickly because I think I've shown you well enough how to pull it through, right? So the loop goes on top and then you pull the 2 bits through, and then you can tighten them as many times as you want. That's looking good. So I'm going to do those. So again, I'm going to show you this one more time, and then I'll just put them all on super quickly so we can move on. So we've got folded it in half, loop on top, pull those 2 through. When I'm doing these examples myself, it's so easy when I'm doing them, but then as soon as you're on camera and you're like, oh, I must make it look really beautiful and easy to see on the camera, you then know, oh, what's happening? But hopefully I'm doing all right. We're nearly there. Okay, good. So we've got 3 more. Folding in half, loop on top or underneath if you so wish, and then tighten those two bits and move them along. Now, as I said before, I'm using the same wool for these tassels, but you don't have to. Every single one of these tassels can be a different colour. Every single one of those tassels could be a different texture of wool. It's totally up to you. And in a second, when I put this last loop on, I'll show you what I mean about the ends and the direction that they go. So that's looped through. And again, you could do more of this or less of it. So you might do some more either side. Now, what you've got to remember is if you've measured each piece of yarn the same length, the further you go up, the difference will be at the bottom, right? So the further they go up, the shorter they'll be down here. And that's what I'm about to talk to you now about. So these guys, they're all sitting pretty much the same. They're a little bit off because I've not been very, very neat with my cutting. But at this point, you could decide to have them going in a direction. So what you do, I think we might go in a direction. Although they are it's kind of showing me a bit of a diagonal. So maybe we'll do that like a point, like an arrow. So these ones are really long. And it's basically, once you've decided if they want to go in that direction, you could maybe hold a ruler over it and then just chop, 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 chop. Or if you want them to go at a point, so this one's quite long, I'm feeling like naturally, if I trim these ones like that, and then this one here, and then these two up like this, then they've got a sort of natural point in them, haven't they? There you go. So now they sort of sit in an arrow shape, which is quite nice. And so you're just trimming it until you're happy with the way that they hang, the way that they sit. I'm using the tiniest of scissors. I've got a big pair of scissors I could use. What am I doing? I've got my tiny scissors for the pom-poms, which will come next. But there you go. So you can decide how you do that. You can decide which direction they go in, entirely up to you. And then if we very quickly just add some tassels here. So again, this is where the sort of your creative decisions are coming into play. So your tassels on your twig, you can decide whether they are shorter or whether you want them to hang over these tassels. They could go all the way along. You could have some on this side, entirely up to you. I am going to show you another tassel, hopefully, shortly. But yeah. We're going to do some tassels on the wood here. Josephine says, when I make tassels, I wrap the wool round a book and cut through the wool where the pages are. Oh, yeah. So I guess in a minute when we do pom-poms, I think what Josephine's saying will make sense. So you're wrapping the wool around. So you're going wrap, 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 wrap. And then you chop, 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 chop on underneath the book. Let's see if I can do an example. That does make sense. If you want the wool to be the same length on these tassels, yes, that does make sense, Josephine. It does. So you would get your book and then you'd go wrap, 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 wrap as many times as you want, chop, chop, chop along here, and then each bit of wool you have will be exactly the same length. Yes. So if you want to be super neat and precise, that's a really easy way of doing it, actually. Yeah. Good tip. Thank you. I'm definitely not that precise to even think to use a book. I just try, I'll do it with my eyes. I'm sure I'll manage. So we'll add some tassels to this twig. What colour shall we go with? I quite like this bright orange. I'm obsessed with these neon colours. I'm not sure if it goes with these tassels though. So maybe, what have we got down here? I mean, why I'm spending so much time choosing these colours when I'm supposed to be showing you. I'm going to use this this sort of dark orange, this nice thick one, and we'll just do a few. Again, I'm using a thick one so I don't have to do too many to show you. So I'm not going to do Josephine's technique with the book because I just haven't the time to be precise, but it's a very good shout and I will use that in future. So I'm just going to cut a length here. And I'm not going to do too many here. I guess the book technique is really good because you can do it loads of times then. You can get loads of tassels out of it because you're just going wrap, 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 and you could do as many as you like. So I'm just going to do, I think I'm maybe just going to do like 4 or 5 along here just to show you. Now these lengths are quite short, so they're probably not going to sit too far over these long tassels here. But the great thing is with the twig, again, with that asymmetry, is that wherever your tassels sit on your twig might move upwards or downwards, and that will determine the end length, which is quite nice. I quite like that. Quite like that. Okay, so I've folded in half again, and then I've gone loop over the top and then pulled through like so. Just try and make it a bit neater. And then, oh yes, Penny, this would be a really good, I think this would be a really good outdoor activity, wouldn't it? Especially when it's a bit warmer, because the other thing that you could use, you don't just have to use twigs. There's other things, you know, like a lot of dream catchers have sort of feathers hanging on them. There's so many things you could get for free out in nature and in the woods that you could use to add to these circular wall hangings. And in fact, if you're in a nice wood that has any willow, because that's nice and bendy, isn't it? It's quite a nice versatile wood that you could use. Yeah, this would be a really nice outdoor activity, but not today because it is, what is it? I think it's -3 where I am. I'm not going outside again to find out, that's for sure. Oh, hang on, sorry. I'm too busy gassing. There we go. And then, hang on. Also, it didn't help that I chose a colour yarn that is basically the same colour as the desk, so I can't really see what I'm doing. So we're going to go over and then through. Okay, there we go. You got the idea. So we've added those tassels, and you can see what I'm doing. Once I've put those tassels in, I'm sort of like, I'm faffing with them. But what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that the tassels are nice and tight and that they're all sitting together and there's no gaps, just to sort of neaten them up a bit. And there you've got the added bits there. So you could decide, you could maybe cut them to the shape of the circle if you wished, or if you'd used longer ones, cut so you can see the ends of these ones. But really, I just like adding some tassels to the twig to make it very obviously not symmetrical. I think that's what I'm going for. So there we've got our tassels, twigs there. Now it's pom-pom time. We'll do pom-pom time. Might try another tassel, another type of tassel, and then I can hopefully show you very quickly how to make a weaving one. I won't show you how to weave because that there's quite a lot of elements to it, but you can have a go. So pom-poms. If you've never made pom-poms before, you can buy pom-pom making kits, and I've got this one to show you here. So this has got 4 different sizes in it, and it was £2.99. I think it was from Aldi. So you can get them relatively cheaply, and you're getting loads of different sizes. However, if you don't want to buy a pom-pom making machine because it costs money, you can make your own with a piece of card, a pencil, and some scissors. So I'll show you very quickly how to do it, but I'm going to use my pom-pom making machine to make the pom-pom. Or am I? Maybe I'll show you both. We'll see. So all you do is get a piece of card, and then you draw around something circular that is, you can do any size you want. And I guess the joy of this is it doesn't matter if you go wrong. You can make as many sizes as you like. I don't really know what size makes what pom-pom, but I guess it's the diameter, right? So this one says 7 centimeters on it, which is supposed to make a 7 centimeter pom-pom. I think that's how it works, but I'm not very good at maths. But really, I just find something that is a pom-pommy shaped circle, and you draw around it, and then you draw a smaller circle in the middle, and then you give yourself a little gap, and you do that twice. So I'm going to show you this. You basically cut it out. So you go round your big circle, and if you don't really have to be neat if you don't want to. Okay, and then you're going to cut your little nick out of your donut, and this is so that your string that holds the pom-pom together has somewhere to go. Oh wow, I've not been neat with this at all, have I? Wonderful. So then you've basically got a C shape, but you don't want the gap in the C to be very big. That's it. That's as simple as that. But you do it twice because you need both pieces to make your pom-pom. So I'm going to cut that out. And then we'll cut our little inside circle out. I feel like I'm rushing now because I'm like, we've got so much to get through with pom-poms. Okay. So then I'm going to throw all this rubbish away before I get bombarded with that. Got a nice tidy office now. Can't muck about. So we've got our double C and then they sit together. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to make a pom-pom with this. And then I'll make a pom-pom with multiple colours on my pom-pom making, I'm calling it a machine, it's not a machine, is it? A pom-pom making device. And then we'll add some pom-poms to there. Lovely. So you've got your double C. You're going to want a piece of string that sits in between that C. Now, the reason these are more difficult to use than these is because you have to hold it all together yourself. The reason these have been invented is just to make it a little bit easier to make the pom-pom. But they're relatively easy anyway. So I'm going to use some of this mustard one again. You just want a kind of longish length that's going to sit in between. So essentially, you're going to sit it in between the C's. We'll call them the C's or the donuts. And you want them to, you want each end to come and sort of stick out of the edges here. Now, that's really hard to do because they're sort of sitting in between bits of card. They want to fall out. But once you start wrapping the wool around, see, this will get easier. So don't worry too much if it keeps falling out. You just sort of want it to kind of sit sort of in between it for now. And then we're going to choose a colour to wrap around it. Now I'm going to choose a colour. I'm wondering actually if I should use this yellow again, just because it's a smaller ball of wool, so it'd be easier. Yeah, let's, or have I got anything else? Oh, maybe this orange would be nice. Yeah, that would look nice. Let's go with that. It's a nice, easy ball of wool. And now essentially what you're going to do is you're going to wrap wool around the C loads of times until it's full to the brim. So you start, what I tend to do is to very vaguely go round the C just to make it a bit easier. Now this is the hardest part about these pom-pom machine, the cardboard ones, is because you're kind of getting these, this is coming in the way, this is getting in the way, it's all a bit fiddly. But once you get going, you're all right. So my ball of wool's fallen on the floor, so I'm hoping that that will unravel for me as I go. That would be really great if that could happen. But what you'll see it's quite fiddly. This yellow bit is sticking out. And you're wrapping it round as many times as you can, but I tend to do a sort of preliminary wrap around. You see, look, the yellow bit's already fallen out. That's why these are so fiddly. That's why we buy the pom-pom devices, but still doable, and we will do it. And we're going to go, I'm going to sort of go all the way around loosely so that it all sits into place, and then it should get a bit easier. And I'm trying my very best to keep that yellow bit inside the C, but once we've gone round once, that should sort of stay there quite nicely. And the other thing about the pom-pom device is you don't have to put the string that's going to tighten it up in until the end, which is why it's a bit easy to do. Come on now, we've got this. So we're going all the way around. So fiddly. This bit needs to stay in between there. Again, I'm just trying to make sure that stays like that. And this is why I've chosen like a smaller ball of wool. It's because if it's a big ball of wool that doesn't like to unravel itself as you're going, then this is even trickier because you're also having to like yank the wool to sort of give yourself some room. Right, now those bits of string are sort of in place, we can start to wrap a bit more neatly and with a bit more intention. So I would say this is great advice. You ready for this? You want to wrap tightly but not too tightly. So you're not really pulling it, but you don't want it to be too loose, because if it's loose then your pom-pom's going to be quite like scraggly. So you just want, and also you kind of want them all to be nice and neatly together. So don't pull too hard, don't tighten too much. Sorry, I'm just loosening my wool. but you do want to kind of, you don't want it to be too loose. And at this point, you can see now I'm being a bit neater with it. So I'm going all the way round and I'm going like each bit next to itself, trying to keep it as neat as possible. And it's getting slightly quicker, but it's still quite fiddly. And I guess the good thing about using cardboard is you can sort of bend it a bit so that it sort of gets out your way. And I think what's become quite clear is because this cardboard one is so fiddly, so I'm not going to do the whole pom-pom on it. So sorry. I'm going to use the device just so you can see the outcome. But essentially, and it will be the same, it would be the same outcome with device and the cardboard anyway, so you still get an idea of what it needs to look like. But also, I don't want you to sit and watch me do this for ages, because you'd be better off watching paint dry, wouldn't you? So you're essentially going to work your way all the way round, and you're going to bring that wool, you're going to do it so many times that it's sitting quite far up. So you want a nice lump of wool like this, maybe like this much. I don't know what that would be, 0.5 centimetre. And then you've got enough wool in there to make a nice pom-pom. And you're going to go all the way around a few times, nice and neatly, tight, but not too tight. And then when you finish doing that, you're going to do the same thing that we do with the device. So don't worry too much, but essentially you're going to cut, if I show you with my scissors, you're going to cut in between the two bits of cardboard, and you're going to cut all of that wool along like that. Yeah, and you're going to go all the way round, and then once you've done that, these two bits of string are going to be tightened as tight as possible and knotted, and then you'll see a pom-pom. But the same thing will happen with the device, so I'll show you that first. And I'm going to use the orange wool again, and I'm also going to show you how you can add different colours very quickly. So with the pom-pom device, you get two bits, really easy. You sit them together, and it's sort of like they're kind of like back to back, like so. So the hardest bit is that you just have to hold each section together as you do it, but it's much less fiddly. So then we're going to do the same thing, but instead of having a whole donut that you're going around, you're going around two halves of a donut, so it's a little bit easier. And you're going to wrap, and can you see how much quicker I can do this, because I'm not having to hold the card together, I'm not having to hold that piece of string in place. And once this has been wrapped around a couple of times, this holds itself together. And hopefully you can also see that I'm wrapping it tightly, but not too tightly. And you can kind of see the amount of pressure that it needs. And you can see how neatly I'm doing it, in the sense that they're all sort of sitting nicely next to each other. And they're all being held together in the same kind of tightness. That's the key, really, I think, to good looking pom-poms, is how tightly and how uniform those wraps have been. I think if some of them are tight and some of them aren't tight, then that's when it looks a bit scruffy, and when they're not sort of neatly wrapped. And you can kind of see as you're going along how you're doing it. Can you? I hope you're all sitting at home now thinking, I see why she quit on the cardboard. We didn't need to watch all of that, because the amount of times that I've wrapped this round, it does take much longer with the cardboard. However, saying that, I have got used to using these pom-pom devices, so I guess maybe I'm out of practice with the cardboard ones. So I don't want to put you off, like I don't want to make you feel like you have to go out and buy one of these, because the cardboard ones do work really well, and I think you can get really good at it. You can get much better. I've sort of lost touch with the cardboard ones, but they are totally free, so I totally recommend having a go with one of them first. Now, I've got so excited about telling you how to use this pom-pom device that I forgot to add some extra colours. So I will do that on the other half, just to show you what happens. Just takes a little bit longer. But you can see how many times I've gone round. You can see sort of the thickness compared to the thickness of that. You'll sort of know, I think, you kind of get an instinct as to how thick you need this to be before you stop. It's pretty obvious, I think. And it's really hard to explain on camera sort of how many times you're wrapping it. It is guesswork, but it's kind of easy guesswork, I think. So once you've done that, now you can either sort of just wrap up to this edge and then carry on here and do this side the same, or if you want to add some of the colours, what you can do is you cut there, keep this ready. So I'm just going to unravel it a bit so I don't lose it. Keep that there ready, because you're going to carry on with that. But if you want to add other colours, like these ones that are here, You're literally just adding some extra colours in. Simple as that. So you get, let's maybe try some contrasting colours. So I'll get a bit of this, neon pink. My goodness, it's 10 to already. Who knew these wall hangings could be so fun? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my pom-pom with this pink colour. Now, there's two ways of doing this. You can either just go for it and just use your other colour, or if you want those colours to sort of sit in a clump together, then what you might do is just keep them in one area. So for example, with this one, if I just do this middle section, then you're going to get a little clump of pink, which is quite nice. Oh, quite a big bit of pink, actually. It's quite a lot there. I'll stop there. And then what I'll do is I'll do another colour just to show you. Let's get a nice contrasting colour. What's this green down here? A green one. And we're going to go... I just want to make sure that's held in place. Hold that on there. And then we'll do that over this side, I think. I think it's easier with this machine device to get the tightness of the wool right as well, because you're not having to fiddle so much with the bit of string in between the cardboard ones. So I think you're kind of naturally able to get you'll kind of get a rhythm into it, and you know once you're in that rhythm that you're not doing it too tightly or too loosely. That makes sense. So there you go. I've added a bit of green there, and I'm not going to do any other colours, just so you can see, because you can go crazy. You can do as many colours as you like, but I'll just do those two for now. And then I'm going to fill up this side here, and then I'll go over it all a little bit more. Just make it nice and chunky. We're nearly done with the pom-pom, I promise. But you can have real fun with this because you can do different colours, different sizes. Again, with the cardboard one, you can do whatever size you like. So you can do loads of different cardboard sizes. You're not dictated to these devices where they're all, you know, every single one of these I make will be the same size, and there's only 4 sizes in the pack. So, whew, it's good on the old shoulders as well, this. Hey, this is like a sitting down exercise whilst crafting. Perfect. What a combination. Okay, I think we're probably good to go there. They look pretty similar. And then essentially all you're going to do is you're going to chop your yarn there. That bit's fallen on the floor now. So this is why this device is easier, because now you close it and it's got these two little like clips on it. So you stick it together and clip it down, and now it's all attached. So this is the fun bit. I'm just going to pick up some yarn so that I have a bit to tie it off before we finish. Pop. So I've got my piece of string ready, and then essentially you're going to get your little scissors and you're going to cut in between the 2 bits of donut. And can you see? Whoa, that's so exciting, isn't it? It's going to go around like that. And you'll see now how it's a pom-pom. That's very exciting. And again, the reason why this device is easier, this is the bit that was in between the donut that we did with the cardboard. So at this point with the cardboard, you do your cutting, your string's already there, you just need to tighten it and tighten it not. Whereas with this one, we do this bit now. So we put it in between the 2 bits of plastic. And for this bit, you need to do as tight a knot as possible because it's holding every single piece of that pom-pom in place. So you're going to tie it once and go as hard as you can without breaking the string. And then you're going to, as quickly as you can, tighten a knot so it doesn't loosen. And hey, let's do a 3rd knot for luck, because that's what I tend to do. Right, and then that's done then. So you're going to unclip your pom-pom machine, and hopefully a beautiful pom-pom will be revealed. Ta-da! Oh yeah, I think that's worked pretty well. And you can see there your 2 colours that we added in. And so you see what I mean about how I kept them in one space. So you got 2 clumps of colour. Now, if you were to add loads and loads of little clumps of colour, that would look pretty fabulous, right? And you can see like some of them, The reason why I want them to be tight but not too tight is because if you have different levels of pressure on the tightness, then this is where you get these sort of scraggly bits, and they're all different lengths. Now you can go ahead and like fluff this up by sort of chopping out off any like longer bits. This is a bit like hedge trimming, right? So this is like, is that called topiary? That's what this is, but with yarn. And you can make it, you can do as much of that as you want until they're all the same length. But there you have your pom-pom, and we've got our bit of string that we added to it, which is tightening it all together. And it really is as simple as just tying that to your wall hanging. Really is that simple. So I'm just moving my little topiary bits of yarn out the way, my bits of fluff. And then we would decide, so if you made loads and loads of pom-poms, then you could decide where they're all going to go. So we've got our wall hanging here. We've got two, I've made a little yellow one earlier. So you could either put a selection at the bottom, got different sizes. You could do them on the twig. I quite like them on the twig, actually. I don't know, what do you think? Maybe there would look quite nice. But it's totally up to you. You could do, you know, you could do one on the twig, one down here, and you just decide where they go. It's as simple as that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this one to the bottom of this bit. And again, really simple. We're just tying it super tightly. Maybe we turn it over so the knot's at the back. And a third knot for look. And we'll chop that edge there. Up, like so. And you can move that into place so it hangs nicely. And then you might put another one. I'm going to put another one there, I think. Turn it over. How long have we got? Oof! I've only got 2 more things to show you. So we've got our knot there. Okay. There you go. Look at that. Perfect. Now we could stop there. We don't have to do anything else if we don't want to. I think that looks lovely. And I hope you all have a good play with pom-poms and sort of experimenting with colours and the sizes. Lovely. That works, right? Beautiful. So very quickly, I'm going to show you how to do a different sort of tassel. I'm going to use a bit of string, maybe that length. And now basically we're going to do the same thing as we do with the pom-pom, same thing that Josephine did with a book, but we're going to use our hand instead. So I'm going to hold this length of string. It doesn't have to be long, just a bit longer than your hand. And you're going to hold it like so. And then you're going to get another colour. So what shall we use? I'm feeling like we need to use a colour that we've already used. Shouldn't be that difficult, should it? So I'm going to go with this green that is in the pom-pom, but it doesn't matter what colour you use really. And then essentially you're going to hold the string over your hand like that. And then you're going to wrap loads of wool around your hand. So however, whatever the measurement is from here to here dictates the length of the tassel. So if you hold your hands wider or you've got bigger hands, the tassel will be longer. I think that makes sense, right? And again, I'm doing the same sort of pressure, tight but not too tight. I don't want to cut the blood supply off my fingers, although it's not going to be there for that long. I think it's fine. And you're just making sure that that other bit of string stays along the top of your hand. It gets quite easy though once you wrap it. You don't need to do as many as a pom-pom. In fact, you can do as many as you like really. There you go. I've cut the string and then I'm going to hold. So these yellow bits here, again, we're sort of holding it a bit like with the pom-pom. You can take that off your hand now, pull it tight and then tie a really nice tight knot. Like so. Okay, and then what you've got to do is go to the other end, get your scissors and try and find all of the sort of the other end of all the string. And you're doing the same thing like with the pom-poms, you're just cutting. Now if you don't get all of them in one go, that's fine because they're all going to sit at the same length. So it doesn't really matter too much. You can just go ahead and make sure that they're all cut, and if they're not, if you find a look, there's a little stray one there that needs cutting. You're just pulling it tight and then cutting it. So that's the start of your tassel. You've got a couple of bits that are a bit odd, so you can chop them off. But then you're going to get a very small piece of string the same colour, or different colour if you want, it's up to you. And then you're going to wrap it round underneath at the top, tie it in a knot loosely to begin with so that you can just pull everything through and make sure you're happy with where it's sitting. But once you're happy with it, you can tie that in a knot. And then chop those bits. And there you have one of those tassels. I don't know what those tassels are called, but they're lovely, aren't they? So that's another type of tassel you can do, much easier than the pom-poms. And then I guess what we could do is we could hang that on the end of one of the twigs or wherever you like, really. So that could sit there and it could hang right down just to add to the asymmetry of it, or you could have one either side. I'm going to tie it over this side. Or I'm going to do it very loosely though, just so that you can see. And then you've got your tassel there. Easy peasy. So that's how you do your circular wall hanging. I appreciate we're now at 1 hour. So what I'm going to just show you very, very quickly. I'm not going to do it at all today because I feel like this could be a session in itself. But if you want to do weaving, so like dreamcatcher weaving, you're using the same tools, the same stuff, nothing changes at all. You use your wooden wheel, you wrap it with a yarn, you get loads of stray yarn that you can weave with. The only difference is that you need a thinner yarn to create your dream catcher shape so that you can weave it. I'll show you that really, really quickly. And then I think the rest you could probably just have a play. But I think maybe I'll do that next time. So I've just got this one is like bent out of shape a little bit. That's okay. So I'm just going to show you very quickly how I do it. Where's my thinner string? I can use this one, can't I? So all you need, hopefully the end of some string would be nice if I can find it. So if I do this as a session in itself, then I can show you this properly next time. But essentially all you're doing, hopefully you'll have a better circle than me. This one's an oval, but you're tying a knot. And the reason you want this to be thinner is because you're going to weave in and out of it. So it's better if it's thinner, like a cotton or a string, rather than a thick wool. And then super easy. Let's just undo some of this a bit more. You're going to go down halfway, and then you're going to go across, and then you're going to go across again. And can you see that every time I go round, it's creating, now it looks a bit like a spider web, but as long as the gap between each string that you go is the same, so these gaps here are the same, then you're going to create the perfect weaving wheel. And you just want to remember when you get to the end, now this is difficult because it's a bit of an oval, but we'll get there. Sorry, just get some, unravel some string. We're so close to the end, guys, I promise. And then you just want to get all the way around, really. And when you get to that last one, which would sit here, you just want to sort of make sure that you can pinch it all into place, right? So we're going to go down. Is that going to be I think we're going to go across one more time. Cross one more time. And then we're going to just pull a length of wool at the end. I'm holding on to it just so I've got enough to tie it off. And it's going to go basically in between all these bits in the middle. And it's going to pull them all tight. Now, if you don't get all of them in one go, you can just wrap it around the middle again until all of those bits are all tightly in the middle. It's magic, isn't it? Can you believe how easy that is just to create that? And you can just wrap it around a few times until it's nice and tight and secure in the middle. And that is the basis for your weaving wheel. And then you just tie that off at the end in a knot, and then you can start weaving. Now, I'm hoping that you guys will be interested in me weaving next time, and that can be the next session, and we'll do this again properly. But I have lots of other tricks up my sleeve, so I'm going to go now. Sorry I've overrun ever so slightly. I got very excited about making pom-poms. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed our session, and I hope you'll have a go at the super easy wall hanging, and I hope you all enjoy making pom-poms. Thank you very much. My name's been Rosie. My business name is Rosie and Ramona, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon. Bye.